Green, welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy the show.
Hopefully the GoPro is recording this time and I don't have to climb up this for the third time just for a cool intro. But I'm on a scrap job up on the scaffolding. This used to be an old concrete plant. The plant was more or less inside that building there, and they craned it all out. And over here, that's a big bin that I guess mixed the sand and gravel and whatnot to make the concrete. There's a couple more things behind it, and then as you can see here, that's a lot of stuff there already torched up. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but there's probably 2 tons worth of I-beam and stuff laying there. And then this big platform that I'm on, I'm going to start measuring out all these cuts and stuff. I'm going to cut everything to mill spec, which is no wider than 2 feet and no longer than 5. The angle iron and C-channel will be considered number 1 prepared. The I-beams will be plate and structure, prepared plate and structural, which pays the best. I found a scrapyard that I used to deal with that'll pay pretty good. I think they said 8.25 per 100 for number 1 steel, and then maybe a little more for plate and structural, but I can't remember. So either way, I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, start measuring out 5 foot on all these and start torching my way down. Let's get going. All right, so there's not much measuring to do. Unfortunately, the piece of angle iron that's in between each one is roughly 7 feet long, so I got to cut it twice, so it's less than 5 or less. So I'll just run along, and I already marked a couple of these, and this one, just cut it on the inside of this 1/2 inch plate here. That way when I drop the I-beam, I can torch this plate here off, and it'll have these 2 short pieces on. Can't be any wider than 2 feet, and with those pieces of plate on each side, it's wider than 2, so that's a no-no. And then these right here, oh, that's hard on the old baby maker. And just cut somewhere in the middle, doesn't really matter. It can be less than 5. It can be less than 2 feet wide and less than 5 feet long, just as long as it's no more than either. So like I said, doesn't really matter what length they are. Just where it's, see, like that electric box, I just cut on the inside of that, and then when I take this whole plate off here, that'll come with it. There's a light, cut on each side of the light. Unbox again. This is really exciting stuff, watching me mark steel, isn't it? These pipe, I think the pipes will be considered number 1 as long as they're thicker than 1/4 inch, which they should be at least 1/4 inch thick. So we'll have to measure those for sure. All right, but anyway, I'm going to finish marking this up. Just wanted to tell you and show you a little bit. All right, so it's about 6,000 degrees today. The GoPro's charging. I have the little battery pack in my pocket cabled to the GoPro, and when it charges, it generally tends to overheat when it's hot out. So I'm gonna do a couple little quick cuts in real time, and then I might put the camera down in the shade somewhere and just do a time lapse. So we'll see. Hopefully it stays on. Kind of an awkward cutting position as well. Okay. Let me avoid a 3rd degree burn there by shutting that off before I try and climb down one level. Stay. Well, by that last clip ending soon, you know what did that just cut off? Oh, it was a bird. What was I saying? Oh, by that last clip, you see it overheats. So I took it off the charger, and now I guess you guys can watch watch this piece fall instead of a time lapse. You always want to make sure your hose is wrapped up and completely out of the way of anything falling. If you're ever 20 feet in the air torching, that is. Awkward. Now it always needs a gentle persuasion. Okay, maybe it needs a little more than gentle persuasion. There you go. Oh, my striker fell. That's why I always put it in my pocket. Oh well, you got to watch that. Now on to the time lapse. Gonna have to be pretty quick on this next cut because there's only a little bit of weld holding on the bottom, holding on 15 feet of scheduled 44-inch pipe. Hopefully we don't get mashed up here. Oh, I got hung on that. Get out of here. Alright, so let's do a little recap. After reading the Scrapper's Handbook to Success, I noticed that these I-beams are 2 pieces. Each one has 4 bolts, as you can see. So I was thinking about just putting a strap or chain if I have one. I think Badger took it. But put a strap on that to the truck out that way, hold a little bit of tension on it, torch them 4 bolts and pull this whole side over anyway, because I cut loose all the angle iron and these little guide rails and this side as well, and just pull this whole thing over. I'm going to bring a machine to load all the metal up, just not today, but let's try that and see how it works. Well, I forgot to hit record on the second time lapse on this side, but each plate has about 3 or 4 inches of weld on each side, both sides, so it took a while to cut those. But I got all the bolts but one cut, and I figured I'll do a regular time of this one because I have a little bit of pressure on that strap and it might pull it over as it is, but just in case, I didn't want y'all to miss it. Feel free to comment, do you think that the strap will break because there's not enough cut, or it's too heavy, or is there enough leverage being 12 feet up that it will pull it over? Time will tell. Just hang tight. All right, it didn't fall. Let me get the camera set up somewhere so you guys can watch it, or watch the strap break, whichever happens first. All right, let's see what happens. Nothing to it but to do it. Champion. I seen it move as soon as I put it in drive, so I hammered it. Nice, now it's much easier to cut. Alrighty, so this is the second day, and yesterday when I left that was pretty much straight up and down. Now it's laying on its side. I guess the whole thing's trying to push itself over, but I managed to cut all the bolts and all the welds. As you can see, they welded all 4 sides a little bit in the seam, but I got 1 bolt left, so I don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to fall or not. So let's torch this and see. Nope, didn't go. All right, so I guess we'll have to hook the truck or something up and give it a tug. Well, whatever's still holding the 2 pieces of bolted together I-beam is still holding on pretty tough. They didn't separate like the other side. Something must have just tore loose. I don't really even see where that stuff was attached. Huh. Oh no. It's gonna be kind of hard to cut now though, because I don't know if it's gonna fall the rest of the way or what. There's one little bolt right there with this piece is hinged on that, but I can't imagine that whole thing is. Who knows? All right, let's torch it up. All right, everybody, watch your toes. nice. I think that's 10-inch I-beam. Let's see. Called that. Nice heavy pieces. Just like a couple minutes ago in the video, which was yesterday for me, I got to cut these plates off because it's wider than 2 feet. Almost 30 inches there, so I got to cut these plates off. But either way, it's going good. Do the same thing on that side. Alrighty, here's the load. Nice and heavy. I want to say it's at least 10,000. Just moved the service truck up a little bit and it's pretty hefty. Got all this stacked up pretty good. That's what I was going to say. I was going to do a time lapse of how I load it, but I'm pretty particular about how I load stuff like this, especially on an open trailer, because it can come off. I mean, I got chain and binders on the important ones, but I like to stack it nice and tight. I mean, nothing is loose, so pretty much take it with the machine to the trailer and then stack it on by hand. So that's that. That little skid steer, you can't see it now, but that used to be mine. I sold it to a buddy and he lets me use it, so this is a perfect little machine for this job. An 1840 case skid steer is probably the best machine for a beginner scrapper. It'll do just about anything you want. These I-beams are nice, really nice. As long as we don't have any issues at the scrapyard, we'll be all right. The scrapyard I'm going to, I stopped going to for 2 years. This will be the first time back in 2 years because they it's a long story, but I was scrapping a crane company was moving, long story short, and they let me have all the scrap that was there, and this thing is not wanting to act right. Just a heads up, while you look at this pretty water going over the bridge, there's like an almost 2-minute rant coming up about the scrapyard I'm going to, so you might want to fast forward if you don't want to hear a little rant. But I think it's worth listening to, that's why I put it in the video. Now a panoramic view. Fancy. Sorry, I had to cut that one short there. I think the service truck is getting ready to need an injection pump. But I was saying this scrapyard I'm going to now will be the first time I've been there in over 2 years. I was scrapping a crane company that was moving, and they had a lot of leftover, like the arms of the cranes and the jib, a lot of heavy material. I mean, you know, 3/8 angle iron, stuff like that, and there were long sections, you know, the arms of the crane, so I was just cutting them as long as I could haul them and taking them to the yard. Well, one day they called the load unprepared number 1, which it was, because it was, you know, bigger than prepared size, and the next day I brought in the same exact material, 3/8 angle iron, long, unprepared number 1, same thing, and they considered it heavy shredder, which is like heavy tin, and the lady at the scale house would not change it over to number 1. I was literally there the next day and she just wasn't having it, so I told them that it'd be the last time I came there. And you know, they're not going under because I'm not coming there scrapping, but you know, you guys see how much material we haul. But either way, today I gotta eat crow and go back there because they're paying $8 1/4 for plate and structural, which this load is. Yes, a couple clips ago I called it number 1 HMS. I don't know, it's too hot out here, maybe I'm losing my mind, but they're paying $8 1/4 for structural, and that's what this is. So that's where we're going. We're gonna eat crow today and go back to the scrapyard I told them I'd never come back to. So I'm sure she'll have a big, bright, smiling face for me. Alrighty, here we go. Been a while since I've seen a pay ticket this big. Got 5 foot plate and structural at $850 a hundred. It went up, which is always good. Had 9,020 pounds for a total of 767. Absolutely fantastic. Can't beat that. Can't be mad at it. Now we got number 1 steel, not plate and structural, but just be number 1 HMS for sure, unless they call it plate and structural, which would be cool. But I got 3 or 4 piles of that around here. Got some short cut off pieces over there beside the Bobcat you really can't see, and a little bit of miscellaneous still laying on the ground. I'm gonna torch that up and take that tomorrow. All that crap over there is just tin, nothing crazy. And then still got that. Not looking forward to that. That's a concrete scale, and that's, they put the dry, I don't know if they put dry or wet concrete in it, but I'm sure it's a nightmare inside. And then got this big silly thing that I've been cutting on, and this is the 3rd one for this company I've done, and they're always miserable. I think I said in the last video that they're plated, which obviously they are. This one had 3 plates. The original is outside, then 1 scab plate on, and then added another scab plate, just because the gravel and all, it's sitting on its side. Normally it would be flipped up, but like a big funnel. But you know, from the gravel sliding down over time, you can see it wears through the steel. That's why they have to plate it. And that crap I'm just cutting up into about big a piece as I can move around and load comfortably. That's this stuff here. This is a little walkway, but all those plates there are from that so far. I think when the crane picked that off, it was like 33,000 pounds. So that's a nice payday coming. But like I said, I'm not cutting it in number 1 size. That'd just be a waste of time and fuel. And then we got that, which is similar. But anyway, $767, not too bad. That's a big chunk of change, I will have to admit. But I mean, that's, you know, half your mortgage payment, or maybe your whole rent, or whatever you got. It's always good to get a big payday like that, but it's not often that it does, and it takes a lot to make it. You gotta have a truck that can haul it, or a truck and a trailer that can haul it, and you gotta load it, cut it. I mean, you know, from everything I've cut up so far, from what you see around, I probably have like a $200 bill at my oxygen and acetylene store on my account. So it's not all profit, it's not all gravy, but every single eventually makes a home run. So anyway,